If you have anxiety or you feel anxious, who doesn't this time? Yeah. And you have children and you are worried that you are going to bring that anxiety to your children. Here today, this is the topic for you. You are going to learn a lot about what to do with your or anxiety, how to talk to your children, and how to do to prevent them, especially what to do with your guilt about having this anxiety around your children. Stay with us because we are going to be interviewing the expert, Elizabeth Cush. Stay with us. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us today. We are going to talk about what to do when we are anxious and we are parenting. That is so difficult for us, maybe more than for the children. This is why we have the expert Elizabeth Cush. Elizabeth Cush is a licensed clinical professional counselor, businesswoman, and podcast host. Her podcast is Women Warriors. And that podcast is for anxious women. This is her specialty. Go and listen to it because you may like it. She's also an insight timer, of course, doing meditations to help us to ease the anxiety. She has a private practice. Her private practice is called Progression Counseling. She has more than 10 years helping men and women to alleviate anxiety. Those men and women who feel overwhelmed, anxious, stressed out, go to Liz. It's especially if you live in, well, probably only if you live in Maryland. Yeah, because we are limited by this license. She's in Insight Timer, so we are going to put in the link in the notes, also her link to Insight Timer. And she's in Instagram everywhere. Our expert today has been really generous in sharing her own experience of being a mother and being anxious about it. So there is a lot to learn today. As I told you, I am here with Elizabeth Cush, and we are going to talk today about this very important topic about anxiety with children. And I have a lot of questions recently, Elizabeth, about what about if I am anxious and I am giving that to my children? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for being here because reading the article that I read about you yesterday about you having 3 kids and have been worried about that when they were younger. It can be very unsettling for a mom.
Oh, so unsettling and bring up a lot of shame and guilt because the sense that somehow we're damaging our children can be really difficult.
Yeah, I have this group where people connect from different parts of the world, and there was a young mother from Peru or from one of Spanish speaking. I think it was Peru, and she asked me, "Do you think my anxiety will get to my 2-year-old?" Yeah, and I say yes.
Right?
God, oh my God, her face! I wish I couldn't have even answered. Her face was so crushed, and her heart, and it was like, doesn't mean that you cannot work on it. Doesn't mean that you cannot work with your child. It's like it is. Yeah? But you ask me and I say yes or no. Well, just yes.
Yeah. Well, and I think that message that you just shared is that, yeah, this doesn't have to be the fact that we have anxiety as moms doesn't mean that our children are going to be ruined or they will have anxiety for the rest of their lives. It's just almost like if you're seeing it in your child and you know that you too have anxiety, then maybe it's time to work together, that this doesn't have to be like a life sentence for any of you.
Yeah. So this is why we invited you, because we want to listen from you, from your expertise. And
Mm,
I am going to dedicate this episode to this woman.
mm,
She was really crushed, and she recently lost a husband. They are in civil war, like all of these kind of things. It was some
yeah,
local going on, very violent. So most
yeah.
likely she will keep having anxiety.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it reminds me, I was listening to your podcast about how the coronavirus is impacting all of our mental health. That, like, if you're experiencing anxiety and depression now, so if there's stuff that's happening in your environment that's causing you distress, you're going to have anxiety. Like, that's sort of our normal experience, sadly, these days. But we can work with it, even knowing that the external situations may not change. We can do our best to find some comfort and peace within us
Yeah.
and help our children find that too.
So here is my first question: is it inevitable? Inevitable?
Hmm.
Is it inevitable? Sorry, my English. The anxious
Yep.
parents will raise the anxious children?
I would say that if the parents are anxious, it's likely the kids will have anxiety, unless the parents are also actively working on helping themselves and helping their children. So, yes, kids pick up the anxiety, the anxious behaviors, the distress that the parents are feeling through, whether it's them being, emotionally disconnected or just totally stressed out and irritable. So kids are picking up on that, but also modeling it too, their anxious behaviors. So
Mhm.
thinking of myself, I think I shared this in one of the articles, is that as a young mom and as a child, I had a huge fear of, and I could see my middle son, who, as he was growing older, was also developing that same anxiety. And that really hit home for me. But I did some work around it for myself. And I think it's helped him too. He's an adult now, but I definitely saw that happening. So, yes, I think it can be inevitable, but we can shift and make changes within ourselves and help our kids with their anxiety too.
Yeah. It is, as a parent, I guess you want to put your child in, I don't know, we wish that nothing ever happened to them. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's life.
Yes. Yes.
I think I'd rather have an anxious mother who works on herself. Yeah. Than
Hmm.
somebody who is healthy, who is not actually taking care of our needs. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
it it is possible to grow up and be healthy if you have an anxious mother. This is
Yes.
this is what I
Yes.
understand from your answer.
Yes, that is my answer. Yes, that,
Mm.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that your children will struggle either any more than you or at all. Like, that they can find, especially with help, like, they can learn how to manage their own distress, just like we can learn that too.
Yeah. Wow. What are some of the ways that our parenting impact the eh, our parenting impact the children? What are these ways?
So, yeah, so if we're anxious parents, that can look like, maybe you're very controlling about what they do and don't do because you're worried maybe about their safety. So that's the other side of this. Like, anxiety is this fear of potential danger, right? So possibly life-threatening danger. And so if you are an anxious parent who worries about your health or the outside world, somebody bad, so you may try to over control your child. So keeping them in the house, or maybe not letting them play, or making them wash their hands all the time, not get dirty, that sort of thing. That
Mhm.
can lead the child to feel anxious about their environment too. Um, Anxiety can also can show up in ways like irritability. So for me, I feel like for me as a young parent, I learned sort of later that was how my anxiety showed up, was that I would get overwhelmed really easily. So if there was a lot going on and suddenly plans changed and then I had to do things differently, that would get me feeling very upset and stressed. And I might take that out on the kids with, yelling at them when I didn't need to, or being very critical of myself for not feeling more calm. So that sort of, directing it either at myself or at my children. And not that I was a terrible mom, but there were times when I'd scream at my kids and it was more about my discomfort than anything they were doing.
I think, Elizabeth, I grew up with a very anxious mother,
Okay.
and it didn't bother me. I don't remember. Well, I was not allowed to run like other children, and my mom is like, no, under my watch you will not break a bone. Yeah.
Mm.
I never broke a bone. So I feel grateful that she was being that careful with me.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing to remember for ourselves too, that this does often come from love. Like we want to be the best parents that we can be, but there are so many things that are beyond our control,
Yeah.
like whether our child falls and breaks a bone, or if they go outside and get dirty, or even if they get hurt by friends, right? Like somebody's unkind to them. Like there's so many things that are beyond our control,
Mhm.
but for an anxious mom, that can be difficult.
Yes. Oh, now as I am listening to you, I can understand how my mom was struggling with me because I gave her hard time. Wha-
Yes, yes, yes.
And also, what I notice is parents or mothers who were sexual abuse themselves, they overprotect the children, especially young girls.
Hmm.
But but it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is okay. And, as parents, I would say for all parents who might be listening, we do the best that we can with what we were given. So if our parents were anxious, chances are we might be an anxious parent too. So, but that doesn't mean that we can shift things and do things differently if we choose to.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. If we
Yeah.
So when is good time or how we talk to children about anxiety?
So I would say that it's anytime that you feel comfortable, whatever age it is that you feel comfortable sharing that with your child, that it's okay to do that. That if you are being open and honest with your child, I mean, depending on the age, how much you share, you don't want to share with a 2-year-old everything that you're worried about because that might just make them more worried too. But for instance, if I'm going to use myself as an example again, like if when I did get irritated with my children and maybe I screamed at them when it was really my internal distress that was causing me to feel irritable, not really what they were doing, I would come back and share with them, say like, sorry, mommy was really upset because I thought we were going to be doing this one thing and then it turned out we couldn't go there. And so I was upset with the situation, not with you. So I'm sorry if I overreacted or if I made you feel like this was your fault. Yeah. So I think you share as much as you're comfortable with, but also by showing your children that we're human, that we too aren't perfect. It allows them to see that there are ways to honor and respect just where you are in the moment, even if it isn't showing up perfectly.
Mhm, mhm. And I guess they come with their own personalities. They may not even take your anxiety. Yeah, they may.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it may not show up as children, right? I mean, so and it might, but it doesn't necessarily mean, if you're working on managing it yourself and sort of talking about how you're feeling and what's making you anxious and how you're working to feel better, that shows them there are ways to handle this. There are ways to be with that anxiety and also feel less distress.
Elizabeth, I observe a lot in the immigrant families, especially the undocumented immigrant families. They
Mm.
carry a constant anxiety about being found, about being kicked out of the country, about being, I don't know, out of job, being taken from the school. Like it's a constant fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what I notice in the children when they have extreme anxiety based on how they grow up, kind of a learned anxiety.
Hmm.
So I call this anxiety of the second generation. But I don't know if that makes sense to you. I call them, this is like kind of the symptom, the privilege, the symptom of the privilege, because the first generation, they cannot feel anxiety. They need to be on the go and survive. Yeah. So
Mm.
the second generation, they have this anxiety, even though now they have a job, they are stable, they, but they can express it. It's a luxury now to express it. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think when you're living under extreme duress of potentially, yes, being deported or having your children taken away from you or being accosted on the street by someone who maybe thinks you don't belong here or wherever you are, yeah, you would pass that on to your children. And yet for them to want to be able to just live their lives and not carry that around, I think that could cause some friction within the family, right? With the parents and the kids, really that understanding of where each one is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. Because so some of
Yeah,
the children or most of the children are citizens. So they are
right.
not with that fear, but they still have the fear of the police is coming or somebody's going
Yeah,
to find out that my parents or my family or that I'm hiding something. So
yeah.
it's a whole complicated war, emotional war for the second generation.
Oh, I believe it. Well, and I would imagine too, just the sense of yes, your safety and security in the world. If you grew up feeling and hearing stories of it not being safe in the world, like that's hard. Like that's hard to that sense of fear, like would be instilled in you, even if it wasn't necessarily your direct experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, how we can help our children if we notice that they start feeling this anxiety?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of it depends on your personal, what resonates for you as an adult, as a parent. But um, I think that showing your children that the anxiety is something you want to shift and change and feel more safe in the world, that's important. Um, so it can be doing as young as um, probably preschoolers who are learning how to count. You could sit and like count breaths. Let's breathe in 1, 2. And counting your breath. So teaching the kids to sort of because our breathing impacts how anxious we're feeling. So if we're breathing really short and shallow in our chest, our body's picking up on maybe things aren't so safe. So if we're slowing our breathing down, teaching our kids how to do that, that's an easy way to work with our kids around anxiety. Um, I think movement is a great way to sort of release the anxious stuff that's in our bodies too. So There are some great books, which I had meant to pull out and I forgot, but I can send you links to the books. But it's like mindful movement with children. And it's really just very gentle, flowing, as you stand up and raising your arms and then coming back down. And it's just bringing gentle movement into your body to help regulate that sort of maybe anxious state, but also helping you feel present in your body because often with anxiety, there are those physical sensations that then we learn to sort of tune out and push away because that feels uncomfortable. So bringing the kids back to the body and helping them be more comfortable with whatever's happening inside.
Mhm.
Um, Coloring can
Mhm.
be a really mindful, calming activity for kids. Play-Doh, working with very tactile things they can squish and move and mold can be very grounding and help kids with anxiety too. So um, there's so many
Mhm.
amazing activities you can do with children that feel like play, but are ways to help them express the anxiety, but also release it. Um, being outside in nature, taking a walk in nature is amazing
Mhm.
to help regulate our bodies and our kids' bodies.
Mhm. Seems like make them experience something that they can control for a little bit. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like controlling it. It's really paying attention. So I'm thinking about like kids playing with like Legos or very small pieces. So that attention that you need and presence of mind to to manipulate those things naturally takes us out of our head and our worry into whatever it is we're doing with our hands and our bodies.
Mhm. Is something else that you want to tell us about this topic that I didn't ask?
Hmm. I think that it's just so important to one, normalize that right now, especially with the pandemic, things that are going on in the world, the unsettled nature of how the world is feeling right now overall. It, it's it's normal to feel anxious right now. Like that is something I think we're all experiencing at least a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I also want to just say that for any anxious parent that if you're working on getting help yourself, even if you're not actively working to help your kids manage their own anxiety, if you're doing work yourself to help you, whether it's therapy or body work or talking to a friend, whatever that is, that's helping your kids too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're picking up on how we're managing ourselves. That's how they learn how to manage themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
One of my friends say, Carmen, my son has ADHD.
Mm.
What I do, and I say, first of all, what about if we will start with you and you start meditating or do something, and she started meditating, and her 5 or 6 year old boy started meditating with her, and it was not ADHD, it was this picking up from her, and she was so anxious,
Yeah.
she was too, and he started being fine. And she was like, wow, I couldn't believe it, Carmen, that I could work. Like, sometimes it works. Yeah, sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think about just like ADHD and the kids who struggle with focus and sitting still. Yeah, that it could be one they're picking up from parents. There could be some trauma stuff that's being transferred, maybe from, as you said, like if the mom had a traumatic experience, or even if the kids feel that the world isn't a safe place, that can feel traumatic too, which then makes it hard to focus, hard to sit still, can mimic a lot of these early, you know, diagnosed ADHD diagnoses, I think.
Mm. It has been a wonderful conversation. I think it was going to be very helpful for that mom that we dedicated this
Mm,
episode, and for all the moms out there that are struggling right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope so. And I hope that all the moms know that, yeah, we do the best that we can, even if in the moment we're not recognizing the anxieties impacting us. If we do later, that can still help our kids. Like it's all our growth helps our children's growth too.
Yes, yes, true. And it's not what we do to our children to damage, is what we do to help them, what is important.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Mhm. Thank you, Elizabeth. It has been really great and relaxed. I'm very relaxed now.
Well, Carmen, you make it very easy to explore these things and talk about them. And just, I really appreciate your asking me on your podcast.
Yeah, of course. Well, bye for now. Thank you for being.
All right.
And we will put the link to that amazing article that you have if you allow us. And
Sure.
you say you send the book. And is anything that you have? You
Mhm.
have meditations to share with them, or?
Well, I do have, so on my website, I do have some free meditations. I'm also a meditation teacher on Insight Timer, the app Insight Timer, so they can find me there.
Excellent.
If they sign up for my newsletter, you get I think I call it the Worried Women's Guide to Meditation. So it gets you sort of started on meditating if you felt like meditation was just not something you could ever do. So that's that. You'll get that for free if you sign up for my newsletter. So
What is the name that you have in Insight Timer?
it's Elizabeth Cush. So if you search Elizabeth Cush on Insight Timer, I have, I don't know, maybe 5 meditations up there.
Excellent. My community loves Insight Timer.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, it's a lot of great free resources as well as paid, which is what I love too.
So we will put the link to your Insight Timer. We will put the link to your website. I really want
Excellent.
to read your article. That was really
Okay.
well done and really like ease my mind. It's like, okay, I can do that.
Mm,
Yeah. And,
okay.
and the book that you recommended too.
Yes, I will. I will include the book for kids, and I will send that link to you.
Excellent. Thank you
All
Ellie,
right.
for being here, and bye for now. Thank you if you are still here with us. It was so relaxing talking about anxiety with Elizabeth Cush. I hope you enjoy this interview. I hope you learn something and you take care of your family better. And if you want to work in your anxiety, you have all of these freebies from Elizabeth, and we are going to put the links here. And also, you can go to Insight Timer and find my profile on meditations and the course for anxiety. If you want to be in Insight Timer, there is a 10 days course for anxiety. You can go there. And also, you can go to my website /challenge and you find 7 days course for free in anxiety, or /reto if you prefer in Spanish. Or go directly to Insight Timer and have the 10 days of audio. I absolutely love working for you and for your anxiety. Please take advantage of all of this that Elizabeth and I have to offer to you. And don't forget, subscribe, comment, share. That when we share this kind of content, we are sharing good moments with our friends. We are sharing the opportunity for them to do better as parents. So, until next one, bye for now.